What up, you guys? Welcome back to For Publications YouTube channel. It's me, Rich. Daily uploads to open up my own shop. And the kind of stuff I'm going to have in my shop are things like this. This is Art Spiegelman's MAUS. We are still doing our Anti-Fascist Comicbook Reading, and we are on Chapter 2 of Book 1. So let's go ahead and get into this. So Chapter 2 of Book MAUS begins with Art Spiegelman showing up to talk to his father. One of the things I really enjoy about this reading is that he humanizes his father so well, but he contrasts it against the history that he's lived, and it's just very well done, right? It begins with him talking about all these pills and all these ailments, right? He's like, it's 6 pills for the heart, 1 for diabetes, and maybe 25 or 30 vitamins. And his father's sitting down talking to him about the continuation of the story about his experiences during that era of Germany. And he starts talking about ultimately how the father wants to help him. They're very well off. Again, it's something that they continuously imply and indicate in the story. One of the main things also that I took away, which I think when I was younger I may have not really grasped, was that the mother was a communist. And she was doing this communist stuff, but there's this like Red Scare going all around Europe at the time. And so she basically ends up getting the seamstress arrested, locked up, because she has her hide a bunch of communist documents. And it's at this point that they have this argument and they have this discussion where Vladek, Art Spiegelman's father, basically tells the mother, like, you have to lay that shit out. I don't want you being a communist agitator. I don't want the cops coming over here to narc on us. None of that shit. So lay it out. To which he agrees, because I guess either she loved him a lot or she was fearful of what the punishment of being a communist at the time would occur. Eventually they have a child, and this part right here is super chilling, homie. And it's one of those things that, like, it's sad to hear it said this way, but I've met people that talk about losing a child this way. They say, by October 1937, the factory was going and it was born, my first son, Richie. He's a big baby, over 3 kilos. And then the father tells Art Spiegelman, of course, you never knew him. He didn't come out from the war. Art Spiegelman's like, yes, I know. I couldn't imagine losing a child and then it's just being one panel, just a one panel that your brother says, I know I never got to meet him because he didn't survive the war. Parents that bury their children are very powerful people, man. That's not an easy thing to overcome, and for that to just be one panel in this comic is a testament to how the father said it. And also he's contrasting the person now in a frail and older state against all these hurdles that he's gone through as an individual, as a being. But after that, after 2 children being born, Anja, Art Spiegelman's mother, we realize now that she does have some sort of depression and neuroticism going on. And so basically, again, they emphasize that they had the money, so that they went ahead and took a trip, right? It says, right away we went. The sanitarium was inside Czechoslovakia, one of the most expensive and beautiful in the world. I remember when we were almost arrived, we passed a small town. Oh, wait. Every Jew from the train got very excited and frightened. Look. It was the beginning of 1938, before the war. Hanging high in the center of town, it was a Nazi flag. Here was the first time I saw with my own eyes the swastika. Obviously, that would leave an impression on a Jewish man to see the swastika. The first time you saw the swastika, the first time you saw your community agree and adopt this thing that hates you. And like, the parallel of that obviously is like, that's what the MAGA shit is to us, right? And it's hard when you see your neighbors and your community, or people that you thought were your community, like, embrace that hate against you. And obviously, as a Jewish man, the first time he sees a swastika is a big deal. You have the Confederate flag, right, which obviously indicates to most people, a hatred, indicates, a subhuman status. It indicates, an idea that is harmful and disrespectful to a whole group of people. And then after that, the father starts hearing from other Jewish folks all these horrible, heinous, like random acts of violence against Jewish folks committed by Nazis. But they go back into the rich bubble, right? They're in the sanctorium, which is a place which is providing mental health services for folks that need it, and Anja's one of them. And then they're dancing, they're having a good time, they're just living, and they start to feel normal again. They feel okay. This is another part in the story that really hits home with me, is this part of like, brace yourself. The factory has been robbed. It's like, what? It happened last month. They took everything. And Vladek is like, I didn't even have time to insure it before we left. Well, at least I can help you build it up again, because again, they're filthy rich. And this part right here, this panel is the one that gets me, right? This panel. He's like, were you looted as part of some kind of anti-Semitic activity? The father, I don't think this was it. Just a robbery. And like, that's the other thing. And like, I talked about this before, but like, because of everything that's going on, there's been times where I don't know if I'm being ignored because I'm a brown man, or if I'm just being ignored because it's poor customer service. You know what I mean? And like, that's also an aspect of it, of like, we don't know when this aggression, or if we're being fired, or we're being paranoid. Like, it's harder to gauge, and then you start falling into this paranoia because it feels like your whole society, community, neighbors are out to get you. And that's what that made me think of. But after that, they just start building their life and not worrying about it too much. But then it starts getting closer. There was another riot downtown today. Everyone yelling, Jews out, Jews out. Even 2 people killed. The police just watched. Like, that is sick, homie. And a lot of times I think people don't understand how sick human beings are. Like, there are pictures, literally, of people fucking smiling ear to ear with a fucking dead human hanging next to them. Like, you have to be a sick person for that. But the story continues, right? It's those Nazis stirring everybody up. When it comes to Jews, the Poles don't need much stirring up. And then their nanny's like, Miss Spiegelman, how can you say such a thing? I think of you as part of my own family. I'm sorry, Jiniana. I didn't mean you. I'm just worried. Maybe we should move away like some others have. If things get really bad, we'll run back to Sosnowiec. Art Spiegelman, not knowing the full context of it, is like, why would Sosnowiec be any safer than Belsko? Of course, him not knowing that in the moment no one knew or understood the complete atrocities that, you know, Hitler was trying to do. But he says, we thought then that Hitler wanted only the parts of Poland, like Belsko, what used to be parts from Germany before the First World War. So that's how they thought about it, and that's how they viewed it. And of course, things continue to get bad, and then the father gets a draft notice. And this is what I mean of like him contrasting like his father's fragile state versus like all the gangster heroic shit that he did in his life, right? He's like, so Anja and Reykjavik and the governess went in one way to Sosnowiec, and I went then in a different direction to the frontier against Germany. So again, contrasting that, right? Making that clear distinction of him being on the front line, but then showing him drop his pills, talk about his glass eye, talk about all these hiccups that he's had with surgeries and doctors. Showing again that the father was a gangster. And now he's, you know, an older fella, and it's time for him to rest. Obviously, this reading from today hit on many levels. Again, the things that some people embrace and shout so loudly are messages and are symbols of hate for people. And it always surprises me that they don't understand, or they can't empathize with that, or they don't even take that into consideration. The other thing is that mob mentality is dangerous because of that frenzy, because it normalizes hate, and hate only leads to violence. And so therefore it normalizes hate towards a certain group of people. That's why, as he said, they killed two Jews and everyone just watched, right? That same kind of hate mentality is why people used to have lynchings, and they would fucking ear-to-ear pictures of them taking pictures, you know? With that being said, you guys, that's it for this chapter. We'll be back tomorrow with chapter 3. Thank you again for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. And I do this shit daily, so I'll be back tomorrow. Lates.